Good evening, folks, and welcome to the live stream. I hope you're all very well this evening. Hope you had a very nice weekend, and welcome to the live stream. Make sure to smash the like button as you come on. We have 208 viewing and not so many likes, so please do smash the like button. That's great. Hope everyone is well. Let's see who we have on tonight. We have FSM is the dog. Great to see you, FSM. We have Corvus. Great to see you. We have Norflinger. Great to have you on. Tiny Demolition Lover, great to have you on. Hope you're well up there in Scotland. We have Wolf Pet, great to see you. Mark, thanks for coming on. Ali, great to see you. Ava, thanks for coming on. Duke, great to see you. Colin, great to see you. We also have SD White, great to have you on. Raven 1983 Witch, great to see you as always. We have Killer moderating, thank you so much, moderator Killer, and CGM moderating too. We have also Andrew, Oraman, Mega Hairy Bomb, Newsflash, she's still dead. Good evening, Max and everyone else. Good evening, Mega Hairy Bomb. We also have C Law, great to see you. John O'Sullivan, Fearless Wolf, great to have you on. Hope you're well. We have also PA 3556. Duke, great to see you. Inconsequential, great to have you on. Casper, great to see you. Chatty Rat, great to see you once again. Ted Boy, Drums to the Bass, great to see you. And so many more. I want to say hello to everyone. I can't say hello to everyone, unfortunately. There's almost 300 people viewing, so I'd love to say hello to everyone, but I can't. Hope you all had a wonderful weekend, and welcome to the live stream. Remember to smash the like button as you come in. So we're going to talk about, of course, the King. God save the King. It's a question for people. I've always wondered, what does God save the Queen or God save the King actually mean? Is it a request? Is it a demand? God save the Queen. God save the King. Or is it, a request to God, can you save the King? Anyway, it says here, Charles' staff given redundancy notice during church service for the Queen. Yeah, so this is one of the first stories I want to touch on. Not off to a very good start, especially for the King's staff. This guy has just inherited, thanks to, it seems, lobbying by the Queen when she was alive. I think about 10 years ago, the Queen lobbied for her to be exempt from inheritance tax, and the King has just inherited I think 1.2 billion pounds, and this is to be added to the overall wealth of the royal family, which is estimated at about 25 billion pounds. So what's one of the first actions of the King is to make some of his staff redundant. It's a demand. They are the head of the Church of England. Okay. Thanks, Magic. So, God, you have to save the King, or else. It says here, dozens of Clarence House staff have been given notice of their redundancy as the offices of King Charles and Queen Consort moved to Buckingham Palace fall after the death of the Queen. The Guardian has learned up to 100 employees at the King's former official residence, including some who have worked there for decades. It's like you dedicate your life to the King or to Prince Charles, and then you're thrown in the rubbish, just like a used something. A used tampon. No. I'm not going to go down that road. Once again, thanks, Magic. There was a story of a footman, I think it was, or some servant belonging to Prince Charles, who received a phone call one day, and it was from Charles. And Charles said, I was writing a letter and I dropped the envelope in the wastepaper basket. Can you come up here and fish it out? Or can you come up here and take it out? And the waste basket was literally an arm's length from the prince. There's also stories about him having his underwear ironed and his bed sheets ironed, and all of these things, and he doesn't do anything for himself. And we've seen how he reacts with his staff when it came to, not having enough space to write his name, or a pen not working or something like that. Very, very cranky, cranky individual, not somebody you want to work for. And some of these people will no longer be working for him. So it's, as I said, 100 up to 100 employees at the King's former official residence, some including those who have worked there for decades, received notification that they could lose their jobs just as they were working round the clock to smooth his elevation to the throne. So they've been working their arses off to make sure there's a smooth transition from prince to king. And just as you're, working your arse off, you receive a message saying, sorry, we don't need you. Don't come in on Monday. You have Monday off, and don't bother coming in on Tuesday either. Private secretaries, the finance office, the communications team, and household staff are among those who have received notice during the Thanksgiving service for the Queen at Sir Giles Cathedral in Edinburgh on Monday, that their posts were on the line. Once again, this guy has just inherited over £1 billion. He could afford to leave these people on the payroll, but no. Many staff had assumed that they would be amalgamated into the King's new household. That's what most people would imagine, claiming that they were given no indication of what was coming until the letter from Sir Clive Alderton, the King's top aide, arrived. One source said, "No, everybody is absolutely livid, including private secretaries and the senior team. All of the staff have been working late every night since Thursday to be met with this. People are visibly shaken by it." The King should actually go and sack them individually, but no, he'll outsource that job to somebody else. In his letter seen by The Guardian, Alderton wrote, "The change in role for our principals will also mean changes for our household. The portfolio of the work previously undertaken by this household supporting the former Prince of Wales's personal interests, former activities and household operations will no longer be carried out, and the household at Clarence House will be closed down. It is therefore expected that the needs of the post principally based at Clarence House, whose work supports those areas, will no longer be needed." I feel sorry for these people. They've dedicated decades of their life, dealing with an oversized man baby, and now they're out on the rear because he's king. Many of them probably expected it, but it's still, and when did they receive the information? While he was delivering a speech in a cathedral dedicated to his mother. Couldn't have waited, another few weeks or something, no. The King's private secretary added, "I appreciate that this is unsettling news, and I wanted to let you know that the support of the support that is available at this point." What support? He added that certain staff providing direct, close personal support and advice to Charles and Camilla would remain in post. No final decisions are understood to have been taken, as a consultation period, which will begin after the state funeral next Monday, needs to be completed first. Staff who are made redundant are expected to be offered searches for alternative employment across all royal households, assistance in finding new jobs externally, and an enhanced redundancy package payment beyond the statutory minimum. A Clarence House spokesperson said, following this week's secession, the operations of the household of the former Prince of Wales and Duchess of Cornwall have ceased, and as required by law, a consultation process has begun. Our staff, who have given long and loyal service, while some redundancies will be unavoidable, we are working urgently to identify alternative roles for the greatest number of staff. They should actually go on strike, but I don't think they're allowed to go on strike. let me see. We have a super chat from number 3. Thank you so much, number 3. What shall we call the new republic? Britannia. I don't know. That'd be an interesting question. What should the United Kingdom, if it becomes a republic, what should it be called? Wangland. Because Scotland will already be gone and Northern Ireland will be gone. So Wangland. I'm stealing this from my good friend Graham Hughes. I think he came up with the title. So it could be Free Turf Island Republic. Okay. Thanks, number 3. But yeah, it's an interesting. What would you call a British republic? Killer, thanks so much for that super chat. Happy birthday, CJ. Many happy returns. Enjoy the films. Hi, CGM. Great to have you on the stream, and thanks for moderating. And have the night off because it's your birthday. So happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, CGM. Happy birthday to you. I won't sing anymore, I promise. Many happy returns. Hope you have a great evening and enjoy whatever films you're watching. I imagine they are Star Trek related. Wrath of Khan. Freckle Punny, thanks so much for that super chat. Royal households are also exempt from equality legislation. Other companies, organizations, charities are subject to by law. Isn't that wonderful? And why is that the case? Why is it that royal households are exempt from equality legislation? That's very, very interesting, isn't it? And how did that one get through Parliament? Thanks for highlighting that, Freckle Punny. The Great Democratic Republic of Great Britannia. The People's Republic of Great Britannia. England, sure. The 51st state. The Ununited Kingdom. Untied Kingdom, sorry. Wingeland in honor of Brexiteers. I love these names. Little Ingwales. Little Ingwales. So it's once again, it's quite sad that the king is laying off these people, especially at this time, especially during a cost of living crisis. This guy is rolling in money, maybe even literally rolling in money. He's just inherited £1 billion, over £1 billion, and his the royal family is worth something like £25 billion, and they decide, well, we need to lay these people off. Now, another question is, and maybe somebody in the chat can answer this. Well, there is a new Prince of Wales, so why didn't the staff of the previous Prince of Wales just join the house of the new Prince of Wales? William is the new Prince of Wales, so surely William should be taking up the role of the old Prince of Wales, but that's not going to happen, I think. Or he has his own staff already, maybe. It says here, the new Prince and Princess of Wales have recently relocated to Windsor and have moved into Adelaide Cottage while retaining their Kensington Palace apartment for official purposes. A lot of this is quite, the amount of money these people have, the palaces, the apartments, the cottage. This Adelaide Cottage is bigger than most. I don't know. I think I saw some pictures of Adelaide Cottage, and it's certainly not a cottage. Okay, when we think of a cottage, we think of maybe something, a 1-bedroom bungalow or something like that. But no. Adelaide Cottage is certainly not that. It's massive. But once again, these are people who are living on another planet. Really, they're so disconnected. And this sort of sycophancy that we're seeing at the moment is quite disgusting. Which leads us to this story. It says, anger as Center Parcs announces closure of UK resorts for Queen's funeral. So Center Parcs has been accused by customers of ruining people's holidays after it announced that it would close its UK sites for 24 hours from Monday morning to mark the Queen's funeral. Once again, everything has to close down because of the funeral. Like, this is a park. People go and have fun in the park. You're not allowed to have fun now because that would be seen as disrespectful or something. Smiling, that would be disrespectful. Holding up a piece of paper, that would be seen as disrespectful. There was something I shared on Twitter. It was in Edinburgh. A man was arrested, wait to hear this, for carrying a box of eggs. Probably with the intention of launching these eggs in the direction of maybe Prince Andrew. But, you know, how can you arrest somebody for carrying eggs? A box of eggs. You know, you could just say QA Library, one of my moderators said that, you know, it could be something. You could have just said we're making a cake. But then you could say, oh, yeah, but then you were going to ambush Prince Andrew with a cake. So then, yeah, you'd need a better defense than that. But anyway, back to this story. The criticism came after the holiday company announced that guests at its 5 UK parks would have to leave at 10 a.m. on Monday, even if they are in the middle of their stay. And if they don't, what happens? They'll be kicked out. Security will drag them out. The police will be called. And will not be able to return until the same day on Tuesday morning. The company said in a statement that it had made a decision as a mark of respect and to allow as many of our colleagues as possible to be at this historic moment. It added, we hope our guests will understand our decision to support our Queen on her final journey. Keisha Mullner, thanks so much for that super chat. Hey Max, the British royal family are notoriously bad employers. Charles in particular is known for running a hostile work environment. So in the end, no surprise for me. Yeah, thanks for that once again. Thanks for that super chat. I've heard these stories before about him being very, very aggressive with staff, very hostile towards them. Very, very bad-tempered towards his employees, and you know, obviously he's a prince, so you know there's a certain level of entitlement. But in a way, shouldn't these people understand that yes, these people, the servants are not there because they love us; they're there because it's a job. I am their boss; they're my workers. There has to be respect, like in any job. I think there's also this feeling that, well, these people are servants and they do whatever we tell them, but they live because of us. Their existence is justified because we are here. And this creates an enormous sense of entitlement. The idea that, well, you shouldn't really go on holiday because, well, I might need you, or you shouldn't take time off to be with your family because I might need you. You know, the servants are not treated as employees. They're treated as tools. You know, like a shovel or a mouse on your computer. You don't think about it. It serves a purpose. And you know, while the royals will say that, you know, the staff are treated like family, no. You know, from time to time they may be given a few crumbs, but no. If they have serious problems, they will be laid off and they will not be treated. Or maybe when they say they're treated like family, then perhaps this would explain why, you know, there are so many family problems within the royal household. Thanks once again, K-Chat. Fearless, thank you so much for that super chat. You could say he got scrambled. It's going to be a pun night. Thanks for that. Yeah, there's the idea that you're going to get arrested for carrying eggs is amazing. Number 3, thanks so much for that super chat. Crime involves doing harm. The police are authorized to use force only to prevent a greater harm being done or clearly intended, in my honest opinion. It's really a case of, you know, who was being harmed when a poster or a piece of paper was held up? Who was being harmed when Prince Andrew was being called a nonce? Who was being harmed in all of these situations? The right to protest, as long as somebody is not invoking or is not calling for violence, as long as they're not shouting fire in a crowded theatre to cause confusion and which would result in people being injured or getting killed. In most of these cases, we're talking about just somebody protesting. We're not talking about somebody involved in some sort of malicious, with some malicious intent. This is just holding up a piece of paper or expressing yourself. And you're expressing yourself towards somebody who is surrounded by bodyguards, who is in a very senior position and well protected and will not suffer any consequences for that. Well, you will. That's the sad reality. Thanks, number 3. It goes on just to stick with this story. It says the company said in a statement that it would the decision to close means that any guest the decision to close means that any guests who are in the middle of their holiday on Monday will have to spend the night elsewhere or otherwise go home early. And what if they can't? Like, what if they're far from home? Is Centre Parks going to pay for their petrol for them to drive home and then drive back again? Are they going to provide alternative accommodation and pay for that? And then the whole hassle of you have to pack up all your stuff, move out, and then move back in again. However, Central Parks told holiday makers on social media that while they would have to vacate the park overnight, they could leave their belongings in their accommodation. And go where? So yeah, you can leave your luggage in there and go. And where do I go? To another hotel, and just leave my stuff in your. Yeah, you can leave your stuff with us. And if I want to sleep in this hotel, well, I'll have to take stuff with me. Yeah. But you can leave other stuff behind. This makes no sense whatsoever. The company asked customers who are due to arrive on Monday to delay their arrival until the following day. And will they be compensated for that? No, of course not. And said it would not be possible for... Who came up with this? Who had this wonderful idea? Yeah, what we'll do is let's close for a day on Monday next week. And I imagine somebody else replied with, "What? Are you insane? How would this work? We better do it out of respect for the Queen." The Queen doesn't use Central Parks. The Queen doesn't care about that. The royal family don't care about us. Anyway, Centre Parks, which is owned by Canadian investment firm Brookfield Property Partners, said that the vast majority of guests were scheduled to arrive or depart on Monday. It added that holidaymakers who wanted to cancel their stays were being offered a full refund, while a partial refund was available for those holidaymakers who would be shorter than expected. Whose holidays would be shorter than expected. Customers expressed their anger at the company's decision on social media. One of those affected wrote on Twitter, "You have ruined our family holiday that we have been saving and eagerly waiting for months. There is no acknowledgement of the wider impact to your customers. Our wasted holiday booked off work, further travel costs." Another person, John, wrote, "So pissed off with your decision, Central Parks. You have ruined our family holiday." Okay, it's the same one. Another customer tweeted, "What do you propose we do on Mondays, as we have nowhere to go and it's too far for us to drive home and then drive back the next day?" A third called it absolutely shocking decision, added that they were traveling from the other end of the country and would have to scramble to find alternative accommodation at this late stage. Once again, it's completely insane. Some customers complained that their travel costs would not be refunded if they had to cancel, while others were waiting times said where waiting times were up to an hour to get through to the Central Park customer service team on the phone. Central Parks said all customers affected by the decision to close would receive an email on. So this is different from, for example, the pandemic, okay, where the government steps in and says you need to close, and then the company has to react to that. But this is an actual decision made by the company. The company decided we're going to close. Nobody would have criticized them if they had stayed open. Or if somebody did criticize them, it would be a small group of royalists who would be angry for a day, and then they would have forgotten about it. But instead, they decided, yeah, we're going to close to make 0 people happy, because who's going to be happy with this? Nobody's going to be happy about this. And you're going to upset customers, and these customers next time are going to say, well, to hell with this place, we're not coming back here anymore. Look at the way they're treating us. It makes 0 sense to me. Really, you're trying to keep nobody happy, and on the other side, you're pissing off your customers. Time to open the gate to Taurus. Holding up down with the king sign, down with the king sign, in a good way to bring the light. The fact that the debate about monarchy has been strengthened with the Queen's passing. The media are deaf to it. Yes, there has been, more and more people are realizing, wow, by trying to stop us from protesting, by stopping us expressing ourselves, you're actually encouraging more and more people to reconsider the monarchy. Sheep like sycophancy, yeah. Makes 0 sense. Welcome to Brexit. To the Brexit, sir. Tim's, thanks so much for that super chat. I respect other people's feelings about the Queen's passing, but I find it ridiculous the inconveniences that this causes regular people. Yeah, look, I've said before, why can't people mourn privately? Can't people, take out a picture of the Queen, put it on their table, light a candle, for example, say a prayer if you want, or just have a moment's silence? Isn't this a dignified way to remember the Queen or to show your respect? But instead, what you have is this sort of virtue signaling. I call it virtue signaling. Thanks once again, Tim's, for that super chat. It's like a sort of virtue signaling. Look at what I'm doing. Look at what he's doing. Look at what she's doing. Look at what we're doing. It's all about demonstrating that we're doing something, that we're showing respect, and that people see it. And, you see pictures of McDonald's, restaurant menus with the picture of the Queen on it and the date of birth and death. A bicycle lane was closed out of respect for the Queen. Who comes up with these things? Who actually thinks, yeah, we should actually close the bicycle lane. We should actually close this resort or this park, because if we don't, someone on Twitter might get angry. Because the royal family don't care. The royal family would not be going to these parks, so it's not like they would arrive and go, hey, you should be closed. That's not going to happen. I can mourn better than you. Well said, Jamie Mack. Yes. People's funerals have been cancelled. And yeah, this is another thing. So people's funerals have been cancelled. Medical appointments have been cancelled. Medical treatment has been cancelled. There was a story I read about a woman who has cancer treatment once a month, and her treatment was due to happen on Monday, and it's been cancelled. Tambecks are bringing out a king size range. Oh my goodness. I don't remember the whole story there, but it's something a bit sort of weird. Magic, thanks much for that super chat. We've hit the Brexiteers in the fields. we've hit the Brexiteers in the fields. Basically, they seem to be massive royalists, a large intersection of them anyway. Some commentators complaining. There is a massive crossover between Brexiteers and royalists, which is funny because until recently they were criticising the hell out of Charles. Nigel Farage, what's his name? Was it Crafty Wank, the guy on on Gabon Brexit News? These people were criticising, and pretty harshly, Prince Charles when he was prince, on a number of issues, for example, in particular climate change, and now they're singing his praise. Well, wait till he starts commenting on climate change again, and let's see how they react. Wishing it was a holiday in Canada. Yes, it's not everyone is getting a day off. Darren Grimes. Welcome to North Korea on Thames. A barrister who held up a piece of paper was challenged by the police in London and almost arrested. Reminded me of Putin's crackdown of freedom of speech. A piece of paper. I think there was somebody who held up a blank piece of paper, and the police moved them on. Ireland Foster was decked out. Oh, okay, that was removed. It's getting bloody ridiculous. Anyway, let's move on. So, thousands of people have queued to see the Queen, to pay their respects.
From Buckingham Palace, the late Queen's official residence and the resting place for her body this evening. Crowds have queued to pay their respects in Edinburgh before the coffin is transported by plane here and then on to lie in state in Westminster Hall. All night, thousands of people waited patiently to file past the Queen's coffin at St Giles Cathedral, paying an emotional farewell.
Very sombre, beautiful, smell of lilies. It was beautiful, but very sad.
It was just so beautifully quiet and respectful, and yeah, it was just totally blown away.
The King has left Edinburgh to visit Northern Ireland, where his mother's role in reconciliation, soothing historic tensions, is being remembered. Well, people in Edinburgh have only a few hours now to file past the Queen's coffin. Let's go to Matt in Edinburgh now. Matt.
Good afternoon from Edinburgh. There are two protagonists in this historic drama, of course. One is the King, Charles III, who left the Royal Palace of Holyrood House just down the road this morning and has now landed in Belfast within the last few minutes. There he will continue his tour of the four nations.
So I'm not going to go through all of this, but Charles met with the leader of Sinn Féin and the leader of the other parties in Northern Ireland, and that was very cordial. There was nothing really to say about it, and there's nothing really to say about anything here because it's just a case of people going to the cathedral and paying their respects. Phil Spicer, thanks so much for that super chat. I agree, some hospital cancellations are not right. My department, lots of patients will simply not turn up. It's hard to do the right thing. Often happens. A very good point, and thanks for raising that, Phil. So if a lot of people don't bother to turn up, then it makes sense maybe to cancel the appointments. I didn't actually think of that. I was thinking of how if there are appointments cancelled or treatments are cancelled, if many, especially when it comes to appointments, if the staff feel that there's no one actually going to turn up, then they would probably ask for the day off. But the fact that people are not turning up for the appointments when there's a queue, when there's a waiting list that needs to be dealt with, is a problem. So no, thanks for raising that point, and it has changed my mind on some of the comments I made before about this, believing that it was a disaster because there was, and I did a video on it recently, where people are waiting for medical appointments, they're waiting for treatment, and they can't get it because in this case some of the NHS trusts are closed. The hospitals will be closed on Monday, or they not closed, but they won't be taking appointments for non-urgent treatment. Doesn't mean that A&E will of course be always open, but thanks for raising that point, Phil. FSM is the dog. Thanks for that, FSM. Bince giving out swords to pick a king. Was a supreme executive power derives from a mandate from the masses. If somebody chucked a singamator at me, they'd put me away. Well said, FSM. A wonderful Monty Python's has a quote there. Charles has lost his parents and changed jobs, but this is too much. Without sounding like a copper, evening all. Bumbling Boris buffoon. Oh, you'll have to change your name now. The Boris is no more. Well, for now anyway. He may be back, as he said. Hasta la vista, baby. Coming just now. What are we talking about at the moment? We're talking about. Well, I was talking about Prince Charles letting go his staff, making them redundant, while he was giving a speech, at the same time as him giving a speech in respect to his mother. Then we also talked about a park which has decided to kick out its customers on Monday because of some reason, respect or something, and many of these customers are not too happy. Their accommodation, they're being kicked out of their accommodation, and they'll have to find new accommodation. Anyway, guys, let's move on. It says here, King Charles faces a tough test if he wants to keep his personal climate fight alive. If King Charles is to maximise his impact in the battle against climate change, he has a very narrow path to success and must avoid at all costs any whiff of blinkered and intolerant privilege. So, Prince Charles, when he was Prince Charles and now King Charles, has been an advocate for environmental issues and, of course, dealing with climate change. And, while he was Prince, he was pretty free to air his, speak his mind, air his grievances. But now that he's King, he's supposed to be a bit more controlled. A lot more controlled in what he says. Will he do that? This is it's not something guaranteed by monarch. This is really a modern idea that the king or queen would keep their mouth shut on political issues. It's really, I think it was Queen Elizabeth who really took this approach of do not let the public know what you think. Because as soon as they as soon as they know what you think, then you're in big trouble. So it's best to, do your job, sign off on whatever rubbish is put in front of you. Don't complain, don't comment on it, and just do your job. Keep your head, like, if you're working in an office and, you realize that it's not in your interest to make any comments about the work or to complain or even to say that you like it. Just do the work, put your head down and watch the clock. And when 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock comes, out the door you go, and you don't mention it until the next day. I don't think Charles is going to be like that. He may be like his mother, and he has been groomed to be king. He has, been preparing for this role all his life. But he's very passionate about things, and we've seen him, lose his cool, and he's been king, just a few days, so it's not off to a very good start. Kevin, thanks so much for that super chat. As an American, I grew up believing the UK was this sophisticated country that ruled the world. When did it turn into a shit show? To this shit show? I think it has been a shit show for a long time. It's just that people have been very good at hiding it. You know, how can I say? I think probably in the latter part of the 2010s, you know, like I don't want to say, I don't want to pile everything on Brexit, but Brexit really did expose this sort of weird underbelly of Britain. This sort of idea that you had this feeling in the general public realized the empire is over and it's not coming back. But I think Brexit rekindled, maybe in some people's minds, the idea of empire. Or maybe we could become an empire again. Maybe we could, once we get out of the, from the shadow of the European Union, we can sail, in our own boats. We can conquer our own territory, conquer territory for ourselves once again. We can, bring the empire back bring it back to life. And I think some people truly believe that. Now they're realizing that no, in order to be a world power, you have to operate on the world stage, and you have to trade with the allies, you have to trade with your neighbors, you have to cooperate with your neighbors. You can't be an island. You can't act like North Korea, or to a lesser extent Russia at the moment. You need to cooperate with people. And cooperation helps you. It benefits you. It benefits your friends and allies, and it benefits you too. And I think in 2016, many people who probably never even thought about the empire started to think about it and say, oh, maybe, there's a chance that we could bring back the good old days when people listened to what we had to say. But that turned out very well. Thanks once again, Kevin. So, my view of Britain was, in a sense, a shining light in Europe, leading in Europe. And that all sort of went downhill, I think, when the Tories after Margaret Thatcher started to go, okay, well, we're not this, we don't want Europe to be that united. We want to be in charge of it, and we want to use it as a single market. We want to take advantage of the single market aspect, the economic aspect of it, the economic union. But we're not a big fan of the political union. We're not a big fan of sharing power with others. We like to be at the top telling people what to do, and especially when it comes to international trade. And we want to be the gateway to Europe. So we want the foreign, the countries outside Europe to see us as I said, as the gateway into the European market. We speak English. We have a great background in finance, manufacturing, technology, innovation. We have the greatest colleges, universities in the world. This is our selling point. And I think that was something really positive for Britain, until you had this sort of xenophobia that sort of crept into the Conservative Party in the mid-1990s. And it sort of festered away there for a number of decades. And then it sort of exposed itself in the early 2010s, when you have these fringe movements within the Conservative Party who are like, we want to get out. We want out of Europe. It no longer benefits us as a country. We have to get out. We have to get back to being an empire again. And the rest is history, of course. Thanks once again, Kevin. So the Brexit global Britain is really an island to itself. It is. It's the only country in the world that, maybe with the exception of North Korea, that has imposed sanctions upon itself. Brexiteers will deny this, but it's the reality. Jacob Rees-Mogg talking about, well, we need to undo part of Brexit because it would be expensive. If we don't, it would be expensive. Actually, carrying out checks on goods coming into Britain would be expensive, and we're not going to do it. Why are you not going to do it? Well, because it would be expensive. So imposing sanctions on yourself would be expensive, yes. So it's maybe somebody can come up with another country in the world that has imposed sanctions upon itself deliberately, not, by taking some sort of action and then the sanctions happened after. We're not talking about, Iraq going to war and then having sanctions imposed upon it. Brexit Britain imposed sanctions upon itself, and it continues to do so. It can undo those sanctions by rejoining the single market and the customs union, but for political reasons it doesn't want to do that. Not for a while. It will eventually. The penny will eventually drop. You're going to get to a stage where Conservative MPs are going to say Brexit was a disaster. Brexit was a bad idea. But until that happens, you're going to see the denial. And it's going to continue for, I'm thinking, a couple of years at least. When I mean a couple of years, maybe 10 years at least. I don't want to be so downbeat, but it's going to take, for the UK to rejoin the European Union, or at least the single market and the customs union, you need to have the Tories and the Labour Party and the Lib Dems or whatever, but they're not the problem. It's the Tories are the problem. You need Conservative MPs bad-mouthing Brexit. They need to be saying that Brexit was a bad idea. Brexit was a mistake. At that stage, you're going to have pretty much the country behind rejoining. And that's what's necessary. You can't just have a Labour majority, because in order to rejoin, the other side have to accept the UK as a member. And they're not going to do that until they're sure that, everyone is on board. And at the moment, not everyone is on board. The EU will not want the UK back. I don't agree with that, because for, today, no, definitely not. Tomorrow, probably not. But within a number of years, if the needle changes, if things really are moving away from this pro-Brexit rhetoric, and more people come to the conclusion, yes, Brexit was a mistake, then because the European Union would like to have the UK as a member, because it's still a very powerful country. There's a benefit of having the UK as a member. There's an extra market there. And the European Union is about expanding markets. So it would like to have the UK as a member, but the UK would have to follow the rules, and Brexiteers don't want to follow the rules at the moment. They're happy to follow WTO rules, or rules, that are written by the United States, for example, on other issues. But no, when it comes to Brexit, it comes to the EU, no, we don't want to follow any rules. Anyway, I want to talk a little bit about this. It says here, long before it became deemed fashionable or important, King Charles was focused on the environment. It is for this reason that he was deployed as a not-so-secret weapon ahead of the G20 and COP26 climate change summits in late 2021. The Washington Post summed it up in its typically blunt American style. Prince Charles, once dismissed as a plant-talking oddball, takes his environmental bona fides to COP26. Except this time, it's not plants, but prime ministers. There was hope his personal relationship with India's Narendra Modi would help persuade one of the world's largest polluters to agree to phase out the phasing out of coal. It almost did. In the end, the Glasgow Climate Pact language urged countries to phase down rather than phase out unabated coal use. Far from perfect, but better than nothing, and partly thanks to Charles. Of course, he's not elected and cannot shape the laws or regulations of the UK. And as monarch, he will be newly distanced from campaigning and covening. having already said in a speech, it will no longer be possible to give so much of my time and energies to the charities and issues for which I care so deeply. But I know this important work will go on in the trusted hands of others. But others, by means Prince William, whose royal foundation is already focused on protecting the natural world, and who also attended COP26. It will be mainly via Prince William that the king will direct extraordinary soft power of his family towards tackling climate change. It's a power underpinned by the reach across the Commonwealth and the 2.4 billion people that have already been a long time in the making. It does create problems for Charles to get involved, but as you see here, maybe it's a chance for him to redirect his energy through his son, Prince William. So we may see Prince William instead taking up the mantle. And if Charles was influential before, he's definitely influential now. And while the UK is diminished on the world stage, it still has a significant amount of clout, especially within the Commonwealth. And I think Charles is not going to be... He's going to be quiet on the publicly, but privately I think he's going to be asking his son to do a lot of the heavy lifting. Never mind the footprint that those huge lugs. And I'm going to be pretty after the service. I need a lift. We'll sell my house and half the petrol with you. Am I correct in thinking that there's an anti-law and order party backlash in Poland? I haven't read about that, so I don't know. The EU has said it is beyond any doubt that the UK would not leave again, even if it elected a new government. And say that the EU will add some sort of condition in a new rejoin deal that like time limits. Yeah, this is, look, I don't think the EU would say, well, you can just jump back in and have things as they were before. No, there will be a negotiation, and the conditions will be pretty strict. But I think what's going to happen before then is there will be realignment. So the UK will be pretty much be like a member before it becomes a member. So it will be following all the rules. It will be aligned on pretty much everything, and it may even require it to join the euro. I don't think that's the case though. But I think it's a case that they will have to be pretty much like a member without having any ability to vote. And then it will make sense. Well, the politicians will sell the idea, look, we're pretty much like a member of the European Union. Wouldn't it be better if we could participate in the parliament? And then it would become a member at that stage. But we're talking about a long time down the road, I'm afraid. We still have to wait for people within the country to embrace this. Did Sweden's far right get in? So I'm going to talk a little bit about that later. As far as I know, I think votes are still being counted. I was hoping Charles would have ripped Rees-Mogg a new one over climate change. We'll have to wait. It's still early days, so I have a feeling he's going to get involved more than he's admitting. Central Parks have backtracked on their decision to kick people out on Monday, been announced this evening. Thanks for that, Chianti and fava beans. I love the name. Chianti, a nice Chianti and some fava beans. So that's good if they're not going to kick people out after all. Yeah, it's just an insane policy, this one here. It's an absolutely insane policy, this idea of just kicking people out. Where do they go? This is going to damage your reputation with your customers, and you do not want to do that. So guys, we're about halfway through the stream, so I just want to bring up our funny video, and then we'll be back to the serious stuff in just a jiffy. Hope you enjoy this.
Okay, I won't make it about myself. All right, I'll put a small picture of her on my desk then.
He's ready for you.
Oh no! You're majestic.
This is a new comedian who who does impressions of Liz Truss, and it's very good. Anyway, let's move on. So back to some serious stuff. You're majestic. The cost of living is something that maybe people have forgotten about during this this event in history, but no, the cost of living has not gone away. It has not taken the day off out of respect for the Queen. But it says here, focus on growth, not fiscal discipline, Kwasi Kwarteng tells Treasury. The new Chancellor, Kwasi Kwarteng, has suggested change of emphasis is needed after he sacked top civil servants who he credited for tight control of spending. UK Treasury officials have been told to refocus on annual growth of 2.5% rather than prioritising fiscal discipline in a call with the Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng. Once again, these people, they have no experience of economics. And I've said before, maybe it'd be better, I'm not saying it is better, but maybe it's something to consider. Instead of putting politicians in charge of departments, why not put, I don't know, God forbid, experts in charge? Have an economist in charge of the Treasury, have a surgeon or a doctor or some sort of medical expert in charge of the health department. So they can say, they would surround themselves with the team they need in order to deal with the bureaucratic issue and negotiating with staff or whatever. But at least they would be somebody competent. Instead, with politicians, you have, Kwasi Kwarteng, what was he doing before this? He was the business secretary. Does he know anything about business? Not really. I don't know. Maybe he ran a business at one stage in his life. I don't know. Now he's the Now he's the head of the Treasury. Like, he goes from business secretary to chancellor. What's her name? Therese Coffey, head of the Department of Health. She used to be in the Department of Work and Pensions. Now she's in health. Like, she has no qualification for that. What's the point? Anyway, stop with the radical ideas, Max. Experts are for sane people. Like Gules at education. He used to be a teacher, but he I imagine him as the sort of teacher who would, pull you up by your ears or hit the back of your knuckles with the duster or something like that. Don't be daft, Max. That makes too much sense. A dog turd dragging Rumba would have been devastating. So sometimes I should not read the comments because a dog. Let me try and read it. Deep breath. A dog turd dragging Rumba would make it less of a devastating trail than Truss. Oh my goodness. In England only, thank you. Thank goodness health has devolved. Yes, for NHS England. Roisin, thanks for that super chat. The problem is, if Truss's government had an economist in charge of the Treasury, it'd be Patrick Minford. Yes, good. Yeah, good comeback there. So maybe we should scrap the idea of economists in charge. Patrick Minford allegedly, said back in 2017, just after the referendum for Brexit, he said, Brexit would boost the economy by 7%. While in reality, Brexit has resulted in a 4% drop to GDP. Twice as bad as the pandemic. But Patrick Minford said Brexit would boost the economy by 7%. And he's still around. Like, how can somebody... It would be like if somebody was a brain surgeon, and they removed someone's brain thinking it was, a heart. And they're like, yeah, I'm going to do heart surgery on your head. What? How can you be so wrong on something and still have a job? But he believes in Brexit, so that's all that matters. Anyway, as an emergency fiscal package to bring in winter tax cuts for millions of people is expected late next week. Once again, it's almost the end of September. It will be the end of September, more or less, when this new package is brought in. Liz Truss has been Prime Minister for how long now? It's about 2 weeks. And she hasn't brought in a package. And now she's going to do it at the end of September. She was expected to have something prepared before she won the leadership campaign. Anyway, Treasury sources confirmed that no requests have been made to the Office for Budget Responsibility to produce economic forecasts that would normally accompany the Chancellor's speech at a budget. So they're going to exclude the OBR. Now, the OBR is necessary, or has been used before, by the Chancellor. So the OBR provide data to the Chancellor, and the Chancellor produces the budget based on that. But Liz Truss's Chancellor is not going to use the OBR. He's going to use the my backside way of... he's going to pull some data out of my backside, or his backside, as the case may be. So he doesn't have anything. Just fantasy economics. Number 10 said legislation would not be needed to bring in the energy support package for households, as it would have involved guarantees between government and private energy suppliers. However, some legislation may be needed to enact support for businesses. Last week, Kwarteng sacked the Treasury's Permanent Secretary, Tom Scholar. Shouldn't sack a guy called Scholar. That's a bad sign. In his first day on the job, a move that sent shockwaves through Whitehall. Numerous former Whitehall chiefs have questioned the decision, given Scholar's extensive experience of handling financial crisis. Yeah, so you don't... It's like your greatest general, your experienced general, you're going to war. What's your first course of action? Fire the general. But he has experience of dealing with other... I'll do it myself. Kwarteng told civil servants in a call that Scholar had led an excellent finance ministry, a reference to the department's commitment to keeping a tight leash on spending. But in comments first reported by the FT, he said he would focus the focus must now be entirely on growth. What growth? There's a recession coming. Kwarteng argued that by returning to 2.5% growth rate, Britain would be better placed to bear down on the budget deficit. During her leadership campaign, Truss told Conservative Home, that's a Conservative website, we should be growing on average 2.5%, and happiness is a fast-growing private sector. A faster-growing private sector than public sector. That's what we need to achieve. The fiscal event planned by Kwarteng is expected to take place on Thursday or Friday next week, before the Commons breaks up for a party conference. And the House of Commons is going on holiday once again. Well, not holiday, but breaking up once again. Oh my goodness. Carla Zoom, great to see you on the stream. Measures include reversing April's rise in national insurance contributions, which will not help everyone, will help mainly the rich or richer people. The pledge is not to increase corporation tax from 19 to 25% next year. Once again, who's this going to help? People can't pay their bills. People can't feed their families. So Liz Truss's response is, I'm not going to increase corporation tax. These two measures alone, however, would entail permanent tax cuts of £30 billion a year. So you could tax the richest in society, but she won't do that. more than 1% of national income. Kwarteng may also bring forward a 1 percentage point cut in the basic rate of income tax. The problem is people can't pay their bills. It's not that they can't pay their taxes. Truss's team also spoke to business groups about changes to business rates and cuts to VAT to help with the energy crisis, as well as long-term reviews of these taxes. The Prime Minister is planning to travel to the United Nations General Assembly in New York in the days after the Queen's funeral, returning in time to sit alongside Kwarteng in the Commons as he delivers his fiscal event. The most obvious day for it would be Thursday, 22nd of September, as parliamentary business has been postponed until Wednesday, the 21st, and Truss is likely to be in New York until then. At the mini-budget, the government is expected to confirm plans to reverse the recent rise in national insurance, even though it benefits higher earners the most, handing back about £1,800 a year to top earners, while the lowest earners get about £7 a year. So people on the lower end of the scale will get £7, while people on the upper end of the scale will get £1,800. So people who don't need money will get a lot. People who do need money will get £7. Not £7 a week, £7 a year. So Liz Truss, when people come out and say, I can't pay my bills and I can't feed my family, Liz Truss will say, here's £7. Don't spend it all in one go. I don't even know what else to say about that. It's just... So you have energy bills. You have also inflation. There's nothing here to deal with inflation either. Liz Truss doesn't seem to be interested in dealing with energy bills or inflation. She's saying, yeah, we're going to grow the economy. How? And I really wish a journalist would actually ask her, can you explain to us how the economy is going to grow? Inflation weighing on Ocado and its customers. While customer and order numbers have both grown, consumers are buying fewer items and seeking cheaper deals as they respond to inflationary pressures. The online supermarket revised its full-year outlook on Tuesday and now expects a small decline in sales as Britons try to cope with inflation, which hit 10.1% in July. Ocado Retail, a joint venture between Ocado Group and Marks & Spencer, said the value of the average basket had fallen by 6% to £116 in the 3 months to August 28th. Ocado said that sales rose in the quarter by 2.7% to 532 million, an improvement compared with the decline in previous 3 months. Customers' numbers were up by 23% to 946,000, with a 10.7% increase in average orders per week. Inflation is expected to ease somewhat following Liz Truss's plan to cap surging household energy prices. Yes, so inflation, by limiting how much the energy companies can charge people, this will limit the growth of inflation, so it will put a cap on inflation somewhat. But we're still going to probably see inflation figures inflation in double figures, 10% or 11%. There was talk of it going up to 18%. So hopefully it won't get to that. And by putting a cap, in a sense, on energy prices, not allowing them to go from 3,000 up to 5,000, then yes, you're going to limit the rate of inflation. But these online retailers, I think they're going to struggle over the next number of years, because unless inflation is dealt with, people are not going to be able to buy. People are going to move to the more discount stores like Lidl or Aldi or other ones like that, because they just simply can't afford to buy things and have them delivered online, buy them online and have them delivered, or to rely on these brands. Explains why the BBC have been so completely tamed. Bank of England's website said we're at 10.1%. That's it now. And, this is energy bills that haven't hit the new cap. So at the moment, the current cap is £1,971. The new cap will be £2,500. So inflation will increase because people are going to be paying more for their gas and their energy. And companies, there's no news for companies yet. They have to wait another 2.5 months before they actually hear something from, drumroll, Jacob Rees-Mogg, the new business secretary. Can you think of anyone worse than Jacob Rees-Mogg as business secretary? The poor must be kept on the threshold of pain, or they might wake up and consider voting. Very well said, Ian. Because if people are too busy focusing on their problems such as feeding their family or paying the bills, they're not going to be radicalized. They're not going to be convinced maybe we should go out and protest. So if people are distracted by these things, then they're not going to protest. If people have absolutely nothing, they can't feed their families and they can't pay the bills and they're in debt and things are just getting worse and worse, then something will break. But there is this idea that we can't allow that to happen. We have to keep them poor. We have to keep them doing 3 or 4 jobs so that they don't rebel, that they feel that, well, if I don't do these jobs, it'll be, the consequences will be dire for me. And we're seeing bit by bit the encroachment on workers' rights. Liz Truss is talking about pushing through a bill that would forbid essential workers from going on strike, but that can easily be extended to everyone, where the employer says, if you go on strike, you're going to lose your job, and we'll replace you with agency staff. There, and this is wonderful news for certain employers. What we've been doing is, over the last number of years, we've been training up these staff, we've been providing them with holiday pay and all of these benefits, and we've been providing them safe work environments and good working conditions. And now what we can do is we can just fire them and rehire them from an agency. And then if there's a problem, we just tell the agency to get rid of that person or replace them. They're not employees because we're paying an agent to give us the workers we need. So if there's a problem, they're replaced the very next day. And we don't have the hassle of going to court or having to deal with employment tribunals and stuff like this. So you're going to continue to see protections for workers removed. That's what it's been all about. And that's what really upsets me about people on the left who still think Brexit was a good idea. Because you're seeing worker protections being eroded constantly. Let's move on. I have another story here. It says here, cost of living crisis urgent, substantial action needed to keep firms afloat, Chancellor told. A letter to Kwasi Kwarteng was signed by 300 companies and written by Kate Nichols, the CEO of UK Hospitality. She welcomed the support that would be given to households as part of Liz Truss's policies to tackle the hike in costs. But the CEO added, businesses must see action too, or more of the population will need direct support. The letter came as experts warned that the new Prime Minister's plan would benefit richer households, as we saw, than those on lower incomes. See if this works.
Going to have to close 22 years.
Yes, devastating really. We've worked really hard to build this business up from just that farmers selling our own meat to this shop and catering business and supporting all these local producers, and now we're going to have to go right back to the beginning.
So what are the figures? Just how bad are they?
So our current electricity bill is about £21,000 a year, which is quite high, but then it's an energy high business. but the best quote I could get was £76,000.
76,000,
Yeah.
and that just makes business untenable.
Well, it's an extra £55,000, so it's over £1,000 a week. So how do you put that onto the customer? I don't see that that's possible, really.
And that's why it's necessary for businesses to get this extra support. How is a business supposed to pay an extra £55,000 for nothing? For having the same as what you had before. It's not like you're paying an extra £55,000 and you're getting something extra. No, this is just to keep your head above water. And of course, many can't afford that. 2 days after after becoming Prime Minister, Liz Truss announced she would introduce a new energy price guarantee that restricts bills to £2,500 for 2 years from October. About £500 higher than now, but £1,000 less than Ofgem's incoming price cap rise. But analysts from the Resolution Foundation showed that because better off homes typically use more energy, the richest 20% would gain an average of £1,300 this winter through the policy, compared to £1,100 for the poorest 20%. Think tank said that the lack of targeted interventions meant money was not going to those who needed it most. A fiscal event is set out. So we've already talked about this fiscal event, which should be on the 22nd or 23rd of September. But the businesses have been asking for more and more support. They need certainty. Otherwise, if your business is teetering on the brink of collapse, the last thing you need is for the government to say, just hold on a bit more, give us another couple of months and we'll provide you with something. Because then you're like, okay, should I close and save money and then reopen after if something good arrives? Or should I try and hold on and, with the hope that something good arrives, but then something bad arrives and you've run up a load of debts? We need UBI and we need it now. Yes, Lefty Boater, I agree 100%. Unfortunately, it seems it'll have to be the party after the Tories that would introduce a UBI, because the Tories are not interested in providing people with the means to live. We've seen it with the Department of Work and Pensions, with Theresa Coffey, and now we're seeing it with Liz Truss. Making sure that the better off in society are supported while the poorer are not. £7. There, £7. We've given them 12 years. Let's get children working in sweatshops to earn money. Don't say it out too loud, nerdy rodent. Otherwise, some of the Tories might be listening and go, there's an idea. Let's get back to the good old days when, we sent children up chimneys and children worked in loom, the textile industry, working under looms and losing limbs and getting crushed by these machines. There was always a good supply of children at the time. There's also $2 billion of debt owed to utility companies. Yeah, and this is a problem as well. So in order to keep the rate low, or lower than the 3,500 and whatever it was, to keep it at £2,500, Liz Truss is borrowing money to give to these energy companies in order for them to keep the price down or not go up. But this money is going to be paid back by the taxpayer. So whoever's benefiting now, somebody else is going to pay for in the future. Or maybe some people today you're getting a bit of support now. Well, you're going to pay for everyone's support for today in the future, instead of actually taxing the energy companies themselves. Or, as I've made on a number of occasions, this point on a number of occasions, and others have as well, nationalizing these industries. I was looking at BP, for example. I don't know how much it would cost to nationalize. It would be a significant amount of money. But once you nationalize it, you own it. You can decide to set the price. And if you're selling the energy abroad, you can put up the price and charge more for it, and the state would benefit. But the Tories are not interested in doing that because, well, obviously somebody is donating to the party and saying, don't go down that road. Even a threat of nationalisation would be enough for some of these companies to cut back on the price gouging. Again, Truss worked for Shell and BP donated to her campaign. Yes, that's the problem. The corruption, the cronyism. And it was £100,000 for the Prime Minister, which, as we mentioned on the Sunday Rose, is a pittance. It's nothing. The Prime Minister was bought for £100,000. You couldn't buy a flat in London for £100,000, but you can buy a Prime Minister for £100,000. And it's the Prime Minister. It's not some backbench MP that nobody's ever heard of. You can buy one of those for maybe $2 or $3 grand. There's probably a sale on at the moment. A lot of them are risking losing their seat, so you want to buy them now. But it's insane. £100,000 buys you the Prime Minister. I'd save the £10 for buying a £20 kettle. Oh my god! But Boris Johnson's probably going cheap at the moment. I don't know if it's a good investment though. This would be an amazing thing to do. To go to your local bank and say, I want to invest my money, but I need to borrow I want to borrow £100,000 to invest in an enterprise. And they may say, okay, well, what are you going to invest in? You could say, the Prime Minister. Will you give me the money? Because what I get in return is, a return on investment of, 100, 1,000 times. Very good investment. Prime Minister. Tory MPs, quite good, but Prime Minister, you're guaranteed a wonderful return on your investment. Legislation, written maybe with your name on it. Contracts, don't worry about the contracts. That's small fish. But you could have legislation designed for you. There you go. She actually received £420,000 in donations for the leadership campaign. How is this? This is of course legal because it's transparent. You can see who's donating. So this is their response, and they will always say, there's no corruption here. See, you can read it. You can read it for yourself. It's why these companies and these individuals donate. They're getting something in return. They're not donating because they like the way Liz Truss dresses, or they like the way she talks, or the way she walks, or her background, or her speeches, or maybe somewhat her ideology, but these are business investments. Companies don't give money to politicians because they like them. They give money because they get something in return. Now, it can't be always the company that does it, but it can be a director of a company, or it can be a former director, someone who's still connected to the company, someone who's going to benefit in some way. And it's very simple. The solution here is to ban donations. So political parties are publicly funded. If they want to have a 6-month period for their new leader, that's their decision, but they'll pay for it. It would be taken out of the budget that they already get from state. So political parties should be publicly funded. It should not be possible to give donations to political parties. It doesn't matter if it's £1 or £100,000. You should not be able to do this. They should not be able to collect money from enterprises, companies, or individuals, because it breeds corruption, and we can see the perfect example of it here with Liz Truss. Don't forget, a lot of the Tories have an interest in a lot of these companies, and they have offshore accounts that will make sure it's impossible to access the trail that leads there. Yes, so many of them have money in businesses that are operating outside the country. You can see it with Jacob Rees-Mogg, for example. All of his, how can I say, enterprises, very interesting interests he has. And then you have another sort of approach as well, where you'll have an MP who, when they leave office, will be given a role within a company, or they may actually be working as an MP and working as a consultant for the company. This allows this company access to senior ministers, because through the MP. Or it can be a case of people like David Cameron, when they hang up their hat, they end up working for some company, and the benefits that come along with that. David Cameron and others like that are not hired because they have some sort of business experience they have, or some sort of or through merit. No, it's about, we have the ex-prime minister. He has wonderful connections. He has not just national connections, but he has international connections, something that would benefit the company. And for one of these large companies to throw the ex-prime minister £100,000 is nothing to them. They probably spend that on cleaning bills in one of their offices in 6 months. So this is nothing to them, and they see this as a wonderful way to make an investment. We have this ex-politician, all the connections that buys. It's wonderful, and it's an edge over our competition. It's not about whether they like David Cameron, or in some cases it's also not about buying David Cameron because them to do it. So you buy the politician first. You don't want them to gain the advantage, so you buy the politician. It's a disgusting business, and unfortunately most people don't know about it. They think MPs are there to represent their constituents. The vast majority are not. Yeah, Jacob Rees-Mogg has shares in Indian clinics that provide terminations. Yes, Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Catholic who's anti-abortion. And when he was challenged on this, he said, well, this is my business interest. My business and personal positions are separate. That's like, somebody from Greenpeace having investments in oil companies. You said, well, there's something not right here. How can you do that? And they said, well, my investment is separate from the way my ideology. Jacob Rees-Mogg is a scam artist. Jacob Rees-Mogg is a charlatan. He's a liar and a charlatan. He doesn't give a crap about abortion. He doesn't give a crap about the Catholic Church. He doesn't give a crap about religion. His religion is making money. Of course, for the Catholic Church, money is important. But for him, it's about making money. And he says, oh, there's some money to be made in abortion pills, then I'll go along with that. As soon as it's no longer economically viable for him or beneficial to him, then he'll drop it, and he say, I was against it because it was abortion, because it's against the sanctity of life, or whatever it was. Right. The haunted pencil. Jacob Rees-Mogg is a tumbleweed. Anyway, guys, we're almost at the end of the stream for tonight. There was just one more story I wanted to talk about. There was one on Sweden, but I don't think we have all the details of the election yet. But there was just this one here. Oh, where is it? There was an update recently. No, I think I lost it. No, it was just about what's happening. Actually, no, this one was it here. It says here, Russian intelligence officers and military commanders flee Crimea, southern Ukraine. In the Russian-occupied regions of Crimea and southern Ukraine, Russian proxies, intelligence officers and military commanders have begun to evacuate and urgently resettle their families back into Russian territory, the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine Military and Defense said. Defense intelligence officials noted that Russian nationals were secretly trying to sell their homes and to urgently evacuate their relatives from the peninsula. This is wonderful news. So, as you probably know, Crimea was annexed by the Russian Federation in 2014, as far as I remember. The Russians said Crimea is Russian, so it was taken from Ukraine, and it seems now that the Russians in Crimea are realizing that it's probably not a good idea to stay here. Things are not going very well toward up north, and it's better for us to get out of Dodge. And it's funny how they're trying to sell their homes and their apartments. Crimea is seen as a sort of playground for the rich and the well-to-do in Russia. A lot of them that go there to enjoy the beaches, and now they're realizing that actually, maybe it's not a good idea to stay here. This is probably a target for the Ukrainians, and I think it would be a wonderful day when the Russians are kicked out of Crimea, because this was really where it all, not particularly all of it started in Crimea, but we're seeing big changes in the Donbass region, and we're going to see probably big changes in Crimea as well. But Crimea is a sort of culturally important, or significant for Ukraine to get the Russians kicked out of Crimea, because that was part of their big goal of connecting not just the land bridge to Crimea, but connecting one part of Ukraine, the southern eastern part, to the southern western part, and that's not going very well for them. My only concern going forward with all of this is that the Ukrainian military will need massive resources once the war is over to defend their borders, because you're going to see a reaction from Russia unless Putin is removed from power. There is growing support to have him removed, but we're going to have to wait and see what comes from that. But if there isn't some sort of peace deal without Putin, I think we're going to start to see a sort of tit for tat over the border, and it's important that the Ukrainians are given whatever resources they need to protect their border in the future. So guys, we're almost at the end of the stream, so I just want to say thank you to everyone who came on. Thanks for all of the super chats. Thanks for all of the comments, and thanks for smashing the like button. I want to say before we finish, we have one for the road, and after the stream we have our post-stream chat on Discord. So if you're a patron, you have access to Discord. I want to say also a big thank you to the moderators for doing a wonderful job, and happy birthday once again to CGM. She's probably enjoying our movie at the moment, but she might hear this somehow. But before we finish, we have our one for the road. I hope you enjoy this.
In personal grief, take one. No one's going to think you're a hypocrite. This is totally different to when Meghan and Harry did that staged photo, because this is a staged video. Dan, no, your walk forward there was very human and normal. Could we change that, make it a bit stunted and weird, like you've just learned how to walk? Yes, like Liz Truss. Why are you praying like that? You don't pray like that. That's not praying. This is praying. That's how normal people pray. You need space for the grief to go through the fingers. Otherwise, people are going to think it's weird. Nice. Could you stop? Sorry, that lady's crying and it's going to get enough. Can you stop crying? We're trying to do some grief here. Do you know what? Maybe put some shades. Yeah, maybe put the shades on. In fact, take the Queen mask off. The Queen mask is weird. Yeah, like why would she be giving the flowers to... Shades on, Queen mask off. Great. Can we hurry up the grief, Dan, because we are losing the light, okay? We got a boom in shot, guys. Can we get that boom out, please? Thanks. Take 4, Dan's genuine grief. Oh, this is lovely stuff. Yeah, really nice. No, I think this is what she would have wanted. No one is going to call this contrived. They might use another C word to describe you. Compassionate. There is a world in which we cut the monologue and we just have you putting the flowers down. Sorry, Dan, just checking. Do you want it portrait or do you want it landscape? Like, which is more respectful? Depends whether you're posting it to Instagram or TikTok or Twitter. Ugh, that's embarrassing. Imagine if your life was just posting videos on Twitter to try and get more engagement.
And this, of course, is Dan Watton from Gammon Brexit News posting a video of him laying flowers. And allegedly there were 4 takes in order to achieve that. Anyway, guys, see you on Friday. Same bad time, same bad channel. Have a great week and take care. See you then. Good night.